Assalamu alaikum, dear brothers and sisters in Islam. Welcome to this channel, where we explore the beauty of our faith and deepen our understanding of the Quran and Sunnah. Before we begin, I encourage you to subscribe and become part of our growing community, dedicated to learning, practicing, and spreading the message of Islam. May Allah reward you abundantly for your support. Waiting is a form of pain. When Allah Ta'ala chooses to draw someone closer to Him, He tests them. These tests often come in the form of pain because pain itself is a trial. However, how you respond to that pain determines its effect on you. If you endure it by increasing in worship, striving to become better, and seeking ways to handle it with patience and faith, then your rank is elevated in the sight of Allah. But if you simply endure the pain without improving yourself, while also avoiding sinful actions, then it serves as a means of purifying and forgiving your sins. On the other hand, if your response to pain leads you to disobedience, impatience, and wrongdoing, then that suffering becomes a punishment rather than a blessing. This teaches us an important lesson. When Allah keeps you waiting, He is testing your patience and submission. The way you handle that waiting determines whether it elevates you, purifies you, or becomes a trial against you. The hidden wisdom in delayed prayers. Sometimes Allah delays answering your prayers to remove arrogance from your worship. Perhaps you feel a sense of entitlement, thinking that because you have prayed, fasted, and remained steadfast, your supplication must be answered immediately. In His wisdom, Allah may postpone the response so that the waiting becomes a means of softening your heart and deepening your desperation for Him. There was once a young man who struggled to find a spouse. Every time he proposed, he was rejected. After years of disappointment, he started proposing to women he assumed would have fewer suitors, such as older women with children or those with disabilities. Yet even they turned him down. In desperation, he finally turned to Allah in the last third of the night, raising his hands high in a form of supplication known as ibtihal, the most sincere and broken-hearted form of dua. Only a few days later, someone suggested a woman for him to marry. His first reaction was, "She is out of my league, far above me in beauty, status, and social standing." Yet when he proposed, to his astonishment, she accepted. Often when we see unexpected matches in marriage, people wonder, "He must have done some great deeds to deserve this," or joke that it's due to the other person's sins. But in truth, sometimes Allah delays blessings not to deprive us, but to break our pride and deepen our sincerity. The danger of over-attachment. Another reason Allah may delay a response to your dua is to test your attachment. Some people become so obsessed with their desire that it consumes them, weakening their reliance on Allah. When a person is excessively attached to what they are asking for, they risk placing their hopes in the creation rather than the Creator. But the ultimate purpose of dua is not just to receive what we ask for, it is to bring us closer to Allah. If our supplications make us too focused on worldly desires rather than strengthening our connection with Him, then Allah may withhold the response to correct our hearts before granting our request. When you finally receive what you've been praying for, your heart should be in a place of balance, not overly attached to the blessing itself, but grateful to Allah for granting it. So the next time you feel like your prayers are not being answered, ask yourself, is Allah trying to elevate me? Is He purifying me? Is He teaching me to rely on Him alone? Because sometimes the wait itself is the greatest blessing. We don't believe in complete detachment. After all, some attachment is part of being human. Imagine being 100% detached from your kids. If something happened to them, would you feel nothing? That's unnatural, inhuman, and certainly not the Sunnah. The Quran acknowledges that we love certain things in this world, but it also reminds us that our love for Allah and His Messenger must be greater than anything else. This means we should never disobey Allah or neglect our worship for the sake of worldly attachments. If our attachment to something is excessive, it can harm our faith. Picture finally marrying the person of your dreams, only to become so consumed by them that you forget your obligations, neglecting your prayers, your striving, and your purpose. That's not what Allah wants for you. Instead, Allah wants you to have what you seek in balance, without letting it replace your devotion to Him. Your strongest attachment should always be to Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala. your dua may already be answered. Another powerful wisdom is that perhaps your dua has already been accepted. You just haven't seen its results yet. Say you ask Allah for a successful business. What if the business you have right now is the one that will succeed, but it just needs time? Instead of being patient, you abandon it, thinking it's not working, only to struggle with failed ventures elsewhere. What if the success you're praying for is already in motion, but you're giving up too soon? Waiting is worship. The Prophet said, waiting for relief is, in itself, an act of worship. There's a beautiful narration that describes how Allah laughs at a servant who prays and waits with patience, only to give up just one night before his relief was about to arrive. Think about that. He was so close, but his impatience caused him to lose hope. But waiting itself is a sign of faith. A believer trusts in Allah's promise, even when they see no visible signs of change. Take Prophet Musa, alayhi salam. He waited 40 years without witnessing any sign of Pharaoh's downfall. Pharaoh's power remained strong, no army rose against him, no rebellion took place. Yet in a single day, everything changed. Learn to be content. And here's something to reflect on. What happens when you finally get what you've been asking for? Will you truly be content? Or will you remain restless, still searching for something more? How many times have you received what you prayed for, only to realize you still weren't happy? We often think, once I get this new house, I'll finally be happy and content. But then, 2 weeks after moving in, the excitement fades and you're back to your old self. Or you believe, if I marry this person, my life will be perfect. Yet within weeks, arguments begin, routines set in, and the initial spark dims. Suddenly, the thing you long for doesn't bring lasting happiness. Perhaps the delay in your dua is teaching you a deeper lesson, how to be content without it. A wise scholar once said, if you can learn to be content without something, you will truly enjoy it when you have it. But if you depend on it for happiness, it will control you. Being content without something doesn't mean you stop wanting it. It means you're strong enough to thrive whether you have it or not. This delay is not a punishment. It's a gift, shaping you into someone who can handle blessings without being enslaved by them. Allah loves to hear your voice. Sometimes Allah delays your dua because He loves hearing you call upon Him. When you desperately want something, you pray intensely. But what happens when you receive it? Does your devotion continue, or do your prayers fade away? Allah may withhold your request to increase your connection with Him, to make your worship sincere, consistent, and independent of whether or not you get what you ask for. The real test is whether you can maintain your devotion after your dua is answered. Will you continue praying out of gratitude, or will you only pray when you need something? Have a good opinion of Allah. Many people allow frustration to cloud their faith, thinking, why is Allah making me wait? Why isn't He answering me? But remember, everything Allah does is for your ultimate good. If He is delaying your request, there is wisdom behind it. Our job is to trust Him, even when we don't see the full picture. Your dua is already a blessing. Rumi tells the story of a man who kept praying, saying, "O Allah, I keep calling upon you, but you never answer me. Where is my response?" Then he heard a voice, "O my servant, my response is in the very fact that you are calling upon me." Just the act of making dua is a sign of Allah's mercy. He wouldn't let you call upon Him unless He wanted to bestow something upon you. Your dua itself is a greater blessing than what you're asking for. Never stop making dua. One of the most important qualities of a believer is consistency in dua. Sometimes Allah delays answering your request to strengthen your heart, so that your dua isn't driven by desperation alone, but by love for Him. The most righteous people understand this. Dua is not just about getting what you want, it's about deepening your relationship with Allah. So keep asking, keep praying, and trust that every sincere call to Allah is already bringing you closer to Him, even before you see the answer.